As we begin, let's go with coffee today. It don't stop. It don't stop. There you go. It don't stop. Drink the coffee. Drink the nourishment, substance. We we continue to reading. I'm reading for you. I'm the reader right now. Bam. Okay. And this is chapter 2. El-Ab, which is the slaves, tablet 1 of chapter 2, the slaves. It says, Lo, a mission to the planet Earth. Lo, it is important for you to receive this communication because of the misconceptions that have been embedded in you for thousands of years that must be eliminated. 2. You must change your thought patterns. 3. Listen to me, my children, accept only the facts, and it will lead you if you are worthy. We have had in our midst some great teachers, such as Drus Ali of Nubia, teacher of these teachers. He followed the teachers of Ansarullah of Sudan, Northeast Africa. He was under the teachers of the great Ahmed al-Mahdi of the Sudan. Noble Drew Ali, teacher of the Moorish American Moabites, was taught by Drus Ali. Noble Drew Ali came from Cherokee, North Carolina in America. Words of one of the great teachers, Noble Drew Ali, warning for all young men. Okay? It says, beware, young men, beware of all the allurements and wantonness, and let not the harlot tempt thee to excess in her delights. The madness of desire shall defeat its own pursuits from the blindness of its rage. You shall rush up on self-destruction. Therefore, give not up thy heart to her sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. The fountain of wealth, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. In the prime of thy life, old age shall take thee. The sun shall decline in the morning of the days. But when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, the luster of a beautiful woman is brighter than the stars of heaven, and the influence of her power, it is in vain to resist. The whiteness of her bosom transcended the lily. Her smile is more delicious than the garden of roses. The innocence of her eyes is like that of a turtle. Simplicity and truth dwell in her heart. The kisses of her mouth are sweeter than honey. The scents from the perfumes of Arabia breathe from her lips. Shut not your bosom to the tenderness of love. The purity of its flame shall end by their heart and soften it to receive the fairest. That was by Drus Ali, teacher of teachers, the one that taught Noble Drew Ali of the Moorish Science Temple. We will continue on this June 19th, the first day of the federal holiday when they recognize, as they say, the release of the slaves. Now we go to Noble Drew, who is the teacher of the American or the Morris American Moabites. It says, social duties. When thou consider thy wants, when thou beholdest thy imperfections, acknowledge his goodness and remember his mercy, O child of the Elohim and Anaki, who honor thee with nobility as a member of humanity, whom endow thee with speech and place thee in society, to receive and to reciprocal, to help, to confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligations, protection from injuries, thy enjoyments of the comforts and the pleasures of life. All these thou owest to the existence of others, and couldst not enjoy but in the bands of society. It is the Elohim and Anaki who endowed you with speech, the ability to see and touch, for without these you would have no perception of the greatness of the Most High El. Then place you in the planet keep earth to give and to receive from others, and award equal in assistance to each other. It is the Anu, the Heavenly One, who is the head of all Elohim, and gives protection and guidance from injuries. All these you owe to the assistance of others, and could not enjoy but in the bosom of the Most High, Elyon, El. Within the all, El Kolum. It is your duty as a child of the Elohim. It is thy duty, therefore, to be a friend to humanity, and it is thy interest that humanity should be friendly to you. As the rose breathes sweetness from its own nature, so the heart of the benevolent nature, perceives agreeable works, because the inner voice has concern for all and not just thyself. The benevolent being enjoys the order and tranquility of his own breast, and rejoice in the happiness and prosperity of his fellow brethren, which means he too can prosper. The benevolent opens not his ear to slander, the false and the fallings of men. Innocent, forgetful beings give a pain to his heart, being a part of the all. Thus we are all one family, and if I hurt you, then I hurt myself. His desire is to do benevolence and reach out the occasions thereof, and removing the difficulty of another, he relieves and he relieveth himself from the depth of his mind. He overstands in his desires, his happiness, and all humanity, and from the generosity of his heart, he strives to promote it. The peace of society, justice, depends on justice. The happiness of individuals on the safe environment of all their possessions. Keep the desire of thy heart, therefore, within the bounds of moderation. Let the hand of justice lead them aright. Cast not an evil eye on the property of thy neighbor, that whoever is his property be sacred from thy touch. Let no temptation allure thee, nor the provocation excite thee, to lift up your hand from the hazard of his life. Defame him not in his character. Bear no false witness against him. Corrupt not his servant to cheat, or forsake him, and the wife of his bosom, or tempt not to sin. It will be a grief to his heart, which thou cannot relieve, an injury to his life, which no amends can be atoned. In thy dealings with your brother, be impartial and fair, and do to them as they should do to you. Be faithful to thy trust, and deceive not the man who relies upon you. He is sure it is less evil in the sight of Allah to steal than to betray. Oppress not the poor, and defraud not his wage, the laboring man. When he selleth for grain, hear the whispering of your conscience, because that is the voice of the soul, and be satisfied with moderation, nor from the ignorance of thy buyer take any advantage. Pay the debts which thou owest, he who gave thee credit. Refides upon thy honor, and to withhold from him his due is both mean and unjust. Finally, O son, society, examine your heart, call remembrance to thy aid, and if in any of these things thou hast transgressed, make a steady reparation to the utmost of thy power. Charity. Happy is the man who has sown in his breast the seeds of benevolence. The products, therefore, shall be mercy and love. From the fountain of his heart shall rise rivers of goodness, and streams shall overflow for the benefit of all humanity. He assists the poor in their trouble. He rejoiced in furthering the prosperity of all men. He insureth not his neighbor. He believeth not the character assassination of envy and malevolence, neither repeats he the slanders. He forgiveth the injuries of men, he wipeth them from his remembrance. Revenge and malice have no place in his heart. For evil he returned not evil, he hateth not even his enemies, but required their injustice with a friendly admonition. The grief and anxieties men excel his compassion. He endureth to alleviate the weight of their misfortunes, and the pleasure of success rewardeth his labor. He claimeth the fury, he calmeth the fury. He healed the quarrels of angry men, and preventeth the mischiefs of strife and animosity. He promote his neighbor's peace and goodwill, and his name is repeated with praise and benedictions. Now we speak of gratitude. As the branches of the tree return their sap to the root from which it arose, As a river pours its streams to the sea, whence the spring is supplied, so the heart of the grateful man delights in the returning a benefit received. He acknowledged his obligations with cheerfulness, locked on his benefactor with love and esteem. And if to return to be not in his power, he nourishes the memory of it in his breast with kindness. He forgiveth it not for all the days of his life. The heart of the grateful man is like the clouds of heaven, which drop upon the earth, fruit, herbage, and flowers. But the heart of the ungrateful is like a desert of sand, which swalloweth with greediness the showers that fall and burneth them in the bosom, and produce nothing. Envy not thy benefactor, neither strive to conceal the benefit he hath conferred. For though to oblige is better to be the humility that touch the heart, and is amiable on the sight of both of Allah and man. But receive not a favor from the hand of the proud. To the selfish and avaricious have no obligation. The vanity of pride shall expose thee to shame. The greediness of variance shall never be satisfied. Now we speak about sincerity. O thou who are enamored with beauty of the truth and facts, and has fixed thy heart on the simplicity for her charms, hold fast thy fidelity unto her, and forsake her not. The consistency of thy virtue shall crown thee with honor. The tongue of the sincere is rooted in the heart. Hypocrisy and deceit has no place in his words. He is blushed at falsehood and is founded. But in speaking the truth, he has a steady eye. He supports as a man the dignity of his character. To the arts of hypocrisy, he scorneth to stoop. He is consistent with himself as an honest being. He is never embarrassed. He has courage enough to always speak the truth, and he is never afraid. He is far above the meanness of dissimulation. The words of his mouth are thoughts of his heart. Yet with prejudice and caution he opened his lips. He studied with the right and speaketh with discretion. He advised with friendship. He reproved with freedom. And whatsoever he promised shall surely be performed. By the heart of the hypocrite is hid in his breast. He maketh his words in the semblance of truth, while the business of his life is only to deceive. He laugheth in sorrow, he weepeth in joy, and the words of his mouth have no interpretation. He worketh in the dark as a mole who fancieth he is safe, but he blundereth into the light, and is betrayed and exposed with dirt of his head. He passes his days in perpetual constraint. His tongue and heart are forever at variance. He laboreth for the character of a righteous man, and huggeth himself in the thoughts of his cunningness. O fool, fool, the pains which thou taken to hide, what art thou? Are more than would make thee. What thou wouldst seem, and the children of right wisdom shall mock at thy cunning. When in the midst of security, thy digest is stripped off, thy disgust is stripped off, and the finger of derision shall point you to scorn. And we shall end this right now, and I will be right back, part 2.